All right, so we are presenting the project intake phase of an FHS enterprise new project. When a project's submitted by an account manager, an AE, or the client, the team lead will be responsible for assigning that to someone. It's kind of just based on capacity. That's really no change from where we've been. When the project is assigned, you should be receiving a notification in Airtable, just saying that it's assigned to you. Sometimes there will be a note, usually left by the team lead as well, if not someone else. We've seen both Sam and myself do that. So once that's assigned, these are kind of the following steps we've laid out to get things going. So I guess first and foremost, reviewing the urgency. If any urgency has been expressed, we should just be reaching out immediately to get more information, ideally scheduling a discovery call as quick as possible. I think with the scheduling and just urgency on that side of things, I think that's where the team leader manager would be responsible for, trying to make sure that's immediately getting on the schedule, in tandem kind of with your urgency to schedule that discovery call. So if that is the case, we do have kind of steps down here, and we'll go right down to that. If that's not the case, we can proceed to step 2. And that is where we're going to fill out the Airtable card. I guess after each point, any questions so far? I feel like it's been pretty straightforward, but cool. On the Airtable card, I think it might be good if we fill out one of the projects here, actually. That might just be a, applicable or easy way to do this, I think, as we go through the phases. So let's take this one. Phil, have you filled this one out at all? I don't think so.
No, I didn't, because they're not live on Fair Harbor, so we were just going to have some time on it anyway.
Okay. Should I do this one? Might be the same case, but let's see.
I might have filled some of this one in already, but we can maybe just walk through the fields that you've got listed out on the doc, Rob, and just double check each of them. That might be a better way to do this.
All right, so going back and forth a bit. For intents and purposes, let's say this one is assigned, but we start with the tier. That's tier 4. You find that in close. I think it's somewhat self-explanatory. The close lead there, close name. The next one we have is account manager. Since this is not live on Fair Harbor one, we won't need to add an account manager. I guess in this point we should say account executive and, on this side.
One quick note on that.
Yeah.
A lot of times with these tier 4s not live on Fair Harbor, the account manager gets assigned a little bit earlier. So if you guys find that out halfway through the process, just update that field when that happens. So yeah.
Good.
It's just a question on that. Like, if that's the case, how much should we be working with the account manager during the process of getting them onboarded on a new site?
That's definitely going to depend kind of the relationship that account manager already has. I know this is unfortunately probably one of those gray areas where it really just kind of depends whether the account executive or the account manager is the one leading that more than anything. So I would probably just kind of look through close, see who's been involved the most in the communication, depending on what needs to be communicated there. So if you have a question, reach out to the account manager and ask them, should I be going through the account executive, and go from there.
Okay, got it.
On some of the cases too, where even if the account manager isn't involved very much, I'll try and just keep them posted on what's going on. It's not necessarily a requirement, but typically we know a lot more about the website and that process than the AM does getting briefed. So just kind of giving them that information as they're getting involved, right? Passing that over, I think is helpful.
Cool.
Awesome. So we'll leave that field blank here. Google Analytics account. I will check for that. I'm going to speculate they don't have it, but we can try Vegas Road. I cannot find this in Close.
It might be labeled slightly differently if I remember.
I've looked for the name.
Road hogs is technically the word in close.
Yeah, I'm gonna change the URL. So going through Close, we do not have analytics access. Change the title of this real quick. Here. And then instead of doing this, we can do one of these two options. So since we don't know yet, we'll just add this for the time being, and then we can do analytics account access. We'll leave that here. I think just on an initial look, seeing that we don't have any assets or images, I think that's something just to flag immediately, and it should be kind of one of the first things you're thinking about when we are meeting with them for the discovery phase. So asset, and then we are also going to fill out the client form at this point.
We're missing items. Do we need to mark that as assets are missing as well, just to make sure that's noted?
Yeah.
And that's really just for the project manager's benefit. Just if you guys, come back to something a couple days later and kind of forget what was missing, that's an easy place to just go find that.
Yeah. And we do have, not to jump too far ahead, but when we are scheduling the site out for the initial build and really submitting the project, we do kind of have the fields to double check just to make sure we have, ideally in this case, from filling the form out until when we're submitting the project, we do get images and we can remove it here. Knowing how that goes, maybe not always, but hopefully. Cool. So for the clients field, initially what we're going to do is we can go search to see if there is any previous website that would have been done with Vegas Road Hogs. There's not, so we can create a new client field for this. There's two ways we can do that. We can create it with the form here that will be included, or we can simply just go to clients and then add new record after we've searched to not find anything. Let's do it this way. Add new record. And then when we get to this, it should display every field that needs to be filled in right at the top there. So I'll see it's linked to the project. Close lead. The template is always going to be Mauna Kea. The country, I would assume it's Las Vegas. Yep. So it's going to be NORAM for that, and then United States. Down, everything else should be dynamically filled in here or pulling from another record. So we are good on the clients. If, for instance, sometimes if a new project's domain does match another client's domain, we are going to create an external lead in Close. So we can do this form. And then we would fill out, for example, I think this will come up on a lot of secondary sites or tertiary sites where they are different businesses. Like an example I can think of is I've done 6 different websites with one client. So having them all be their own external lead, I think helps track us, track the analytics and just carry that information in a separate place. Current lead name, lead ID, the new one. So filling out the current one, for example, my example would be Get Up and Go Kayaking. I would fill this out for each of these. And then for the new lead name, I would say whatever site it might be in relation to Get Up and Go Kayaking. So the country and then the state. And the rest is pretty straightforward there. Any questions on the clients area?
Do you guys, I guess, just to make sure everyone's understanding, do you guys know when you would need to fill out that live external URL then? Is that clear?
Yeah, like if the same client has multiple websites that we're creating.
Like Robinhood Rentals or all of the things that Scott from Seize the Day is buying every day.
And I guess one just point of clarification there might already be 2 different close leads for each of those sites. So this is only in the case where they are going to need essentially a new website, and they're probably going to be using the same dashboard. So we just need a new lead ID to account for that domain at that point. So
Got it.
cool.
So I guess like Gateway Clipper would be an example, then probably.
The private weddings page.
Yes.
Okay.
And is this the same or separate from the lead ID and close?
So, can you clarify what you mean by that?
So like if I have just like Tahoe Sports, for instance, and I pull them up in close, they have a lead ID in close. If I'm doing another site for them out of the blue, is this related to that at all?
Yeah. So basically, that's a good example. So Tahoe Sports, let's say they're doing their party boat website, and there's nothing for that in close. There's not a domain or anything like that. So what you would do is go to Tahoe Sports' close lead. Go ahead and open this form. And in this form, what you're going to put is the current lead name. So Tahoe Sports in that first field. Current lead ID, which is the current close lead ID, obviously from Tahoe Sports. And then the new information is kind of everything below that for that new party boat website. The name, the website URL, and then the other information below that for the location.
And will this then create another, what does this create?
So what this will do is in close, this will create another lead, a totally separate lead.
Okay.
It's labeled specifically as a live external URL is kind of like the labeling. So we can see that it's a domain. It's not a separate dashboard in most cases, but it is different from that. Ultimately, what this helps us do is in close, we can track clients that have multiple websites. So we can see that in that way, which isn't probably as accurate as it should be, but our BI team can pull that information and build reports off of that. So that's why we want this to be as accurate as possible.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's why we have, some of these guys will have like 9 leads for one client.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. This form, once it's submitted, it does take about 5 minutes for it to actually populate into close. So if you don't see that immediately, just know that for whatever reason, the automation does take just a couple minutes. So you might want to just go back to your Airtable card, finish some stuff up, and then come back to this. And then once you have that lead ID from that external URL, you can then go create the client's card within Airtable. And that's where that'll pull all the other information from Airtable in close.
So is this new, or have I been doing this wrong this whole time?
This is probably something that Rob and I, meaning, have not been great at
I actually don't think I knew about this until
Cool.
So yeah, this is one of the reasons why we're going through this, is just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So it's not a huge deal that it's been missed, and Rob and I will continue to kind of keep an eye out for when this happens and obviously answer questions. But yeah, essentially what this will do is just make sure that the appropriate data is able to be pulled in by our BI team, or any team for that matter.
Somewhat related note is, do you know of any way in Close to, in the inbox section, to like collapse by the email address or something? Because one of the things that's really frustrating me lately is that because we have 7 leads, you get 7 copies of every email.
I don't know, actually. Rob, do you know if there's a way to do that?
No, I don't, but I very much support your frustration there.
We'll have to dig around.
The account managers might have a way to do that. We use Close in a pretty rudimentary way compared to some of our other teams, so they might have some ways for organizing information a little better.
Cool.
All right, got that done.
Just a side note, I think that's probably the most complicated part of just making sure the Airtable card is entered in correctly. Beyond that, I think most of this is just entering in the fields that are on that exact card there. So
yeah. And they should be very straightforward just at the top there. And then the last thing we have on here are finding social media. Let me pull up their website. I guess that's a good one to confirm. Make sure they have a current website URL, or specifying like new business. And then we can go to social media. Which they might not have.
Maybe not.
Very not the easiest site to navigate here.
A GoDaddy website. Oh man.
It looks like it's like just activity pages. All right, so you can skip the social media part. And then we do have a note down here that additional fields can and should be filled in after gaining information from the client, from the account manager, whoever it might be. So it's, the stage is really just to kind of establish what we can, just do that initial sweep, kind of get a little familiar with the project. And then before it is submitted and ready to be passed on to SEO or web designer, just making sure that the form is filled in and all the notes and information are there for the appropriate teams. Okay, and moving on to kind of scheduling the call or initiating that time to schedule. First and foremost, we should do our best to determine if this will be if SEO will be needed on the call. So we won't be doing this by default, but I think for the time being, especially while we are still kind of ramping up that SEO team and figuring out where they're at, it's really kind of going to be a case-by-case basis. And I don't see that straying terribly far from how we've been doing it so far. I think usually in most cases, it's really this first point. Has the client brought up SEO at all? And or have they requested audits? Usually our account manager, account executive wouldn't really bring that up, but usually the account manager would be aware of that and would be presenting that when they're submitting the project or following up with one of us shortly after, just to let them know. So especially for the time being, while we do have the structure we do, I think really just kind of seeing that if the client brought up SEO, it's probably safe to say we do want someone on the team. If they didn't, for the most part, we likely won't need anyone from SEO at that point. And then just gaining more information. Sometimes this can be done later on in the actual discovery call, but if they're actively marketing their current site, if they're working with an agency, that might be a good time to at least identify what our SEO role might be, or just kind of working on that collaboration, just so we're not too surprised later on in the project. Oh, let's say TBD because we're working on this. I know recently it has just kind of been like us reaching out to SEO leadership and asking if someone's available. I would speculate that in the near future that might go to like a workflow or something along those lines. So we'll leave that, but for the time being, just including, just reaching out to either SEO leadership or Sam or myself, just to get that coordinated, and we'll make sure that happens.
Are we documenting any of this on the Airtable card anywhere?
We don't have a set place, but that probably is something we could and should do. I mean, the discovery call notes, we have that document, so we'd include it there, but I think about that one a little bit.
Or maybe we just start the discovery call note document at this stage before this discovery call starts even.
Yeah. I guess one field is, in this case, we would add the SEO specialist to the Airtable card, so they're populated there. If we wanted to distinguish that they, were on this from a discovery call and on it, a little more involved than just like doing a sweep and that kind of phase, I think we can explore that.
Yeah, seems like that would be pertinent to their OKRs and stuff too eventually.
Yeah. Kelsey and I have we met last week, and we were continuously meeting to work through that. So I'd say this is, in this initial phase, this is probably what has just a few unanswered questions or just figuring things out. Like I was thinking about sprints today more and just trying to get them in there. If they just need to have, if we have a sprint and it's like discovery call in there, I don't know if that will suffice, but I'm actively brainstorming, I guess.
Cool.
We could always just add a field where we upload like any docs that the SEO team has done before that call. I don't know if that'd be the same as the pre-sweep, but we could just call that SEO pre. I don't know. We'll come up with a name for it if needed, but
Pre-sweep.
Pre-sweep. I hope not.
Or just, like anything like previous SEO information, something along those lines, whether from us or a client. Open to ideas there. So beyond that, kind of after we gain all this info, talk about SEO times, whether or not they need to be on the call, we can kind of start prepping for the actual call. We'll reach out to the AM, and get an actual date on the books. I think like a 48-hour timeline is, 48 hours from when we reach out is very doable, unless the urgency has been expressed. So with that, I think we will, the prep kind of bleeds into the next phase here. Any general thoughts, comments, questions? Was it super boring? Should I make it more fun next time? I feel boring. I feel bored reading off this, so hopefully it was engaging enough.
Maybe we can make it a little more interactive with having a project so we can show some of the steps a little bit more. I think that would probably be helpful, both for all of us, but also if anybody ever needs to refer to this doc or refer to this video as well, I think that would be helpful. With the SEO stuff, we will do an update again on this when we have a little bit more information on what that's going to look like, because I know that was definitely kind of a gray area still. As far as just actually going through, filling in the fields, getting that project ready for scheduling some time with a client, do you guys have questions on that or anything that we went over?
I don't think
As
so.
far as the like interaction between the AM and us, though, like we're still kind of just like playing it by ear and case by case, kind of like they might schedule it or we might schedule it or stuff like that. There's no like official changes to that or anything. Okay.
No, I would say, keeping it consistent with just being the one to reach out and saying like, hey, blah, 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 I'm your new project manager. What do you think? What's the client like? When do you want to try and set up a time? And I think from there, kind of case by case with who initiates that.
All right, right on.
I think pushing it forward from our end as much as possible, but still understanding that that account manager has the ultimate say as far as what the client communication is going to be and when those meetings are getting scheduled. In addition to working with our, anything that's on our calendars. So obviously our time is not just like 100% open if we have other meetings, but they should be flexible to that too. Does that answer your question, Phil?
Yeah. So just status quo on that is fine.
Cool. Awesome. Well, cool. I think that was the first step that we wanted to go over. This will be put into help docs. We're going to have a whole just section of like ways to walk through. One other kind of exciting thing that Amy is working on too that I thought would be fun to share with you guys is they've started using a new program. I cannot remember the name of it. I apologize, but basically she'll be able to take kind of a bulleted list like this of training material, and to my knowledge, it uses some sort of like open AI to basically create some sort of training resource based off this, to where it can walk you through, ask you questions. It can, if you supply it with the right images, use those images to kind of like actually walk you through a process of like clicking on stuff, make it a little bit more interactive than just like reading through bullet points on a help doc, which I know is not the best way to learn for most people. So myself included on that. But in the meantime, I think it is important that we just have this documented and we can refer to that going forward, just for our own purposes, as well as for when we onboard additional team members in the future.
Cool. So where can we go to find all this information that we just went through?
For now, I will share this. I'll just share this doc with everyone.
Cool.
And I'll include, when the recording ends, I'll include the link to that too.
Okay, awesome.
Rob, you're going to submit this to the training team to get this added in the help docs after this too. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I think they usually update you after they've got that added. So if you want to just
and then
update everybody.
just, after each training, we'll just add it section by section. So whatever, I don't know how many there are off the top of my head, but give us a few months and we'll have a, what did I say, the best damn help doc in Fair Harbor.
It'll be, I should say it'll be separate help docs, but like a section where you can find them all. Yeah. Do you guys have any other like thoughts on anything that might just be helpful for these types of meetings, as far as like resources that we go over, stuff that's more visual, anything else that might be helpful for each of you?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, following along with something would be nice. But other than that, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, Rob, did you have anything else before I jump into the couple of things I have for you guys?
No, if you just want to stop the recording.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh wait, I'm recording. Fun little block out the last 5 seconds.